Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending upon where you are. We welcome you to Author Circle today, Saturday, March 19th, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Joe Groh. I'm the host today for Author Circle. I'm also peer support coordinator of Voice of Men 360. And just to give you some information, Voice of Men 360 is a nonprofit organization founded in 2020 based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born out of seeing a tremendous need and stepping up to provide services to help support and overcome men's and boys' life challenges. We're part of International Men's Day. International Men's Day has been serving for over 21 years, and so far 90 countries around the world join together in doing various activities regularly. International Men's Day follows six pillars, which is the overall well being of boys and men. We follow in the same footsteps. Author Circle focuses around recognizing and appreciating the individuals who have been contributing to the area of boys and men's issues throughout their writings. Participants around the world will be joining and sharing their contribution experiences. The show runs on the third Saturday of every month from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before I introduce our special guest for today, I'd like to go through our disclaimer. We'd like to remind you that Voice of Men 360's mission is always delivered with good faith towards peaceful harmony. The views and opinions expressed in today's episode are those of our speaker and do not represent Voice of Men 360. Our organization engages in discussion forums to offer inspiration and create awareness in the issues of men who wish to overcome their life challenges. We are not providing medical or therapeutic advice. Should you require that type of assistance, we recommend you contact a medical professional immediately. If you have questions or concerns about today's episode or any Voice of Men 360 content, please email us info@voiceofmen360.org. Today's guest is Dave Rogers, one of my favorite people. Dave and I have gotten to know each other being part of Voice of Men 360. We actually spoke together a few months ago through Author Circle as well, a previous book. And he's been involved in diversity inclusion in women's leadership development, cross-cultural communication for almost over 3 decades. He considers himself someone who is blessed to work in the STEAM field where passion intersects with purpose, making a living and meaningful service. He's a social entrepreneur, consultant, certified coach, speaker, facilitator. He has had many experiences all over the world. He's one time lived in Singapore. He's been in Malaysia, Australia, Thailand, the USA, and India, as well as leading leadership workshops and professional development travel expeditions to South Africa, Peru, the Great Pyramids in Egypt, Mayan prophecies, tour to Chichen Itza. He was born in Canada. He has his master's in business administration before joining the Royal Bank of Canada's corporate banking division. He also is involved in risk management, corporate banking division. He's been involved in Hong Kong, many different things, certified master coach, master neuro-linguistic programming. He's received the Spirit of Enterprise Award in Singapore. We could go on for another hour to just his background and his experience and qualifications, expertise. He's been a facilitator with Male Allies Program in Asia Pacific. He's a mentor, global mentoring ambassador program for Global Dialogue Foundation with 5 teachers colleges in India. He's advisor as well to Voice of Men 360. He's involved in career transition coaching as well. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our special guest for today. He'll be joining us, Mr. Dave Rogers, who lives in the Toronto area now. So we're grateful that he's been able to join us here in Canada. And he's nice, cozy home with his British cap on. He looks pretty happy today. So I'm excited to see you today, Dave.
So, thank you very much for reading all the different things from the Bible. I was thinking, oh, this guy's old.
You have a little issue with the voice there.
Dave, you have some issues with the voice, though. Voice is not clear.
Okay.
Are you back? Okay, let's do a test. 1, 2, 3.
And how about now?
Oh, perfect.
Thank you very much, Joe. That was a phenomenal intro. As you were speaking, I was just thinking, boy, this guy sounds really old.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I didn't know you're involved in all these things from our last conversation, getting to know you. So this has been quite fascinating, discovering your background and how busy you've been. I wonder how much time you've had to sleep. You must have been involved in the 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. club and then got to sleep at 6 p.m. So I don't know when you had time to do all these things.
Well, these days, actually, I'm a big fan of napping and taking naps throughout the day. And it's really, really important, especially as you move into your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, is to really honor the body clock. And it's something I learned when I was in my 20s and 30s, because I was living in Asia and often working in North American time. So getting up at 3 in the morning, 3:33, I started really understanding about sacred numbers and being curious about numerology. And so that's one of the things that I really enjoy. We just had a beautiful full moon fire ceremony last night in honor of the full moon. And honoring the body clock might be one takeaway that somebody hears today, is to allow yourself, if you're tired at 3:33 in the afternoon, take a 20-minute rest. And you'll just start to have a whole new relationship with the way that your body needs rest and wants rest, and you can honor that.
Well, I definitely agree. A lot of people aren't paying attention to their body, and then they get in trouble. Yesterday, I had a dentist appointment, as I said, and I sure was tired. I needed to have a sleep to rejuvenate, and read your whole book, start to finish last night. I couldn't put it down, the one book we're going to talk about. But we had actually spoken a few months ago, and we talked briefly about your book, Get 2020 Vision. And predominantly, we do our utmost to focus with Voice of Men 360, how different authors are focused on men's issues and how we're able to overcome. It's great when we can talk about how we've overcome issues, stepped over obstacles, become stronger, wiser, more resourceful, and resilient. So how would you say that particular book had accomplished that when it comes to your own issues or men's issues? We'll talk briefly about that, but I'm really excited about the other book that we're going to talk about shortly.
The writing experience is a therapeutic, cathartic experience. There's this whole journey of writing things down, journaling. I'm inviting everyone to find a way that writing can become your friend. It's about taking the thoughts that go on in the head, putting them down on paper. Whether you like them or not, if they're your thoughts, it's really useful to write them down and to then be reflective, then be curious, then be creative with them. And that's a little tip for some people who say, oh, I don't like journaling, or I can't write. It's not about writing grammatically. And perhaps you were wounded or traumatized as a child. One of your teachers said, oh, you get a D or an E. That happened to me when I was in grade 3 with art, grade 4 with music. I was traumatized, and it stayed with me for over 50 years. I've just gone through art therapy, and even just drawing things like this, which is painting it, art, and allowing creativity and beauty. And that's what writing can also be for some people who are listening today. I do invite you to start writing. A beautiful thing that you could Google and you could check out is called a haiku. It's a haiku poem from Japan. And it's very simple. It's 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. So even when I'm not feeling like it, I might go and write a poem with what I'm feeling. Maybe I'm feeling depressed or lonely or isolated, vulnerable. And that's what my most recent book was about, was writing about stress, particularly men's stress, the feelings that men feel about isolation, not good enough, imposter syndrome, suicidal thoughts, depression. These were areas that I decided to do a deep dive, not only because I've experienced mine, it's because I've just noticed coming back to Canada after being away for 30 years, is how challenging it is these days in the arena of men's mental wellness. And so I've even made a conscious shift there, not so much criticizing mental health, yet looking and exploring mental wellness. And that phraseology can tap into what's called our reticular activating system, or RAS, to start focusing on ways to be more well with nature, with water, with air. And that's something that I'm really passionate about now.
Well, I can identify with when you talked about journaling. I was struggling one day, actually a couple days, feeling really down, and I take an example. A friend of mine, he journaled his whole life. I don't know how many journals he has, but I went to a coffee shop, went by a river, and went for a walk. I journaled over 5 pages, 2.5 hours. No sooner had I got into my car than I got this call out of nowhere. A client called and was interested in purchasing one of my products, and I had nothing to do with that. So I was doing a lot of praying and looking to God for answers. So journaling definitely does work. And you have a good point about the isolation. A lot of men um, are too ashamed or embarrassed to admit they're struggling with something. But women seem to have an easier time of talking to their friends about, oh, my man did this to me, or man did that, or what I do here. So sounds like you've had some experience yourself with isolating, or you know some men that have done that and wish they hadn't and were able to overcome it.
Well, men's caves are something that we all have some type of awareness. And men go into a cave, then that cave can become a man's cave. And some of those man caves can be a lot of fun. They can have the video games, they can have the sports channels, they can have their bottle of scotch. So man's cave can be a healthy element to get away. Yet it's when we get stuck there and
Yeah.
then we don't look for opportunities to grow. And Joe Groh is a great name because that's about growth. And so that's something that if people can start to use words that allow growth and experimentation and curiosity, that will get us out of a rut. That will get us out of depression. Can it be that easy? It can be. So this is the thing. I'm very firmly of the belief that there's something called word medicine. When you're feeling lousy and you're just talking about even some of the ways that women release stress is often in a trust circle, in a talking circle, in a allowing it to go, and then they move on and they don't think about it again necessarily. Yet if they also get themselves into a rut where they keep saying the same story, just to get themselves feeling isolated or angry or pissed off, finding a way to disrupt that pattern could be useful. Yet men and women do communicate differently. I think it's most eloquently expressed in John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And you start to be curious that, yes, men have a certain way that they want to solve solutions. They want to feel needed. They want to feel that they can get something done. And what's been happening is a lot of men haven't been able to get the good feeling of simply putting some screws in the wall and a picture up, or cleaning out the garage, or doing something where they feel of value. And that dynamic is something that men, we've got to take responsibility that the value has to be coming from within. And it might be a mantra like, I value myself and I value others. That little word medicine could save somebody's life, and it has. So I am of value. I value myself and I value others. That shifts the vibration of your focus. It shifts the vibration of the way that you'll go through opportunities or challenges or struggles. Those three words sound very similar. One's one vibration, another's another vibration, and a third is a inspirational growth, self-confidence, self-esteem.
Would you say you have a few particular life lessons that you've learned over the years from your own challenges in your life that you could share if someone asked you, do you have 2 or 3 particular life lessons that you've learned that you somehow weaved into your books, Get 2020 Vision or the Entrepreneur Factor, personal or through business, that you could say that you could summarize in 2 or 3 life lessons that this I wish I knew when I was 18, but this took me all these years to learn. This is what I could share with someone is multi-million-dollar advice.
Well, yes, actually, there's wonderful, a great question, by the way. Thank you so much. And I think the answer might resonate with you, is that when we start to develop our own philosophy, think about it. It comes from our experiences from 0 to 10 years old. Now, if you were traumatized or you were abused, that trauma is going to stay with you until you figure out a way to reflect and release. 10 years old to 20-year-old, we start to feel a little bit energetic. We got lots of energy. We might go and do lots of things. We'll have some failures. 20 to 30, 30 to 40. So each of these 10-year cycles delivers opportunities and experiences, whether we interpret them as positive or negative. So I love quotes. And so some of the quotes, and some of them that you use the Bible quite a bit for some of your quotes. God's delay is not God's denial is one of my favorite quotes. You go and you do your best and you don't win. What do? Do you quit, or do you reapply yourself, become even better? If it's in martial arts, you don't pass the purple belt, do you quit, or do you go and you reapply yourself to become a black belt next year? So God's delay is not God's denial. I love a quote by Rumi, which Rumi is a beautiful teacher, and I'm very connected to the whirling dervishes of Rumi. And that is, in your greatest wound is when the light comes in. Well, isn't that cool? So if you're having the worst days, maybe you are under the most difficult situations, and you can dwell on that and you can live there. So there are some people right now living in the most worst situations of their life. If you wanted me to bring in our beloved friends of humanity in Ukraine, some of those people are going through the worst hells of their life. I have a feeling some of them are going to come and become the biggest ambassadors of love and light in the future. And so through the darkness, the light will shine through. I've worked with people from Cambodia who were in civil war for most of their life. Yet when I spent time with them and they were in one of my movies, they become the most heart-centric people on the planet because they went to war. They lived in caves. At 8 years old, they were carrying AK-47s. They're famous for the killing fields. Yet if you meet many of the people from the Khmer Rouge, the Cambodians, they're some of the most loving, compassionate, kind people on the planet. So those two quotes are probably, Joe, that if I was to cut myself off a little bit, would be two that are really important, that God's delay is not God's denial, and also where the greatest wound is, often that's where the light comes in. And I was sharing that yesterday with some people that were really being stuck in their sorrow and their sadness and their loneliness last night during the fire ceremony. And we wrote some notes, and then we put it into the fire. We let it out. And like what you did with your journaling, when you let it all out, it almost lets in light for beautiful gifts, opportunities, presents, or miracles to come into your life.
Yes, so you've got some good words of wisdom there. I like that. Yes.
That's the beauty right now of the transition as we move into spring from winter. And some of us will do an incredible detox, spring cleaning. So some of us will become minimalist. Because when you're a minimalist, you have the opportunity to go anywhere in the world as opposed to being clunkered down like in winter. Yet this is different strokes for different folks. So anything I'm saying right now, if you decide to write it down or you decide to test it, experiment with it, for you, that's the key. So that's what the challenge I have with many of our old systems that come from the patriarch. Is they're structured, one size fits all. Education, let's all sit down and memorize. No, that doesn't work. It doesn't serve individuality. There's a balance there, though, that we maybe can't afford a public education system that is one size fits all. Or we can't afford a medical system that is one size fits all. Well, that's where we'll have bigger realms on the binomial distribution that health won't work, education won't work. And so we do need to take personal responsibility and ability to respond to find a system of growing, learning, and developing that works for you.
So I remember one quote, it's called "Hindsight is 20/20 vision." So I'm wondering how you got your name, Get 20/20 Vision, and have you had any experiences in your life that you would say would be unforgettable experiences or situations that happened that you may have regretted, but now you look back and go, wow, it's the best thing ever happened to me. The wounded, the trauma, the horrible situation it seemed at the time, but I'm so grateful for it now because it molded me into the person that I am, who I am, that I'm in a position to help others.
Absolutely, Joe. And see, that's where reflection, see, Hindsight is not 20/20/20 if you have not reflected on it and captured the gift from it. So there's many people who've had horrific experiences who buried it. It stays in their psyche, and it's traumatic, and it's re-triggered, and it's leading to addictive behaviors, violent behaviors, and it's a triggered response. It's a fear-driven response. So in my 20s, when I was a banker in Japan, I had night terror. I had imposter syndrome. I was to a point of suicide. What that led me to do is to get on a track of learning about self-like. I had to learn to like myself. When I used to look at the mirror, I used to hate what I saw in the mirror. And I became an addict to alcohol and to violence. And it was terrible. And no one knew from the outside. This was my inner journey to hell. And that was my 25 to 28-year-old. Learning to like myself probably took 3 to 5 years. Learning to want to be a loving husband and wonderful father allowed me to see a light that I didn't want to be a mad, angry, hateful father. So I had to change myself. So those stories in my late 20s were things that I'm so grateful for today. I'm also so aware that maybe I can bring patience, compassion, curiosity to serve others. My life journey with being in finance, male toxicity that is abusive, that's violent, that's criminal, has led me to experience being an outsider, being an insider, working with people that were charged with abuse, sexual abuse, murder. And so there's those experiences that I could go into and really be a thriller of a movie or a series. And they were in Indonesia, and they were in Hong Kong, and they were in China. And these were experiences that I usually talk only one-to-one because they're so rich, yet they're also very relevant because some of the people are still in jail. And so these stories are to awaken, and it's sometimes a shock is to awaken a change. Yet it can be hard, which is what people will say, oh, it's so hard, it's so hard. It's not. That's my mom's favorite phrase. Yet for the last 3 years, we've been shifting gently and bringing in effortless ease. Is the butterfly experience going from a caterpillar to a butterfly? Is that hard every day? Or is there a transition with nature? Winter to spring, to summer, to fall. If you calibrate to nature, it doesn't mean you might not have some tears, because tears are often raindrops into the oceans of healing. And after a good cry, I tend to see rainbows. So these are metaphors, yet they're useful. And again, I invite people to be curious about Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, the Shiro's journey. That's the source of most of the popular movies we've seen. The Hobbit, Star Wars, Indiana Jones is all based on the hero's journey, the mythological journey that each of us tend to go through every 10 years. And it continues into your 70s and into your 80s until we transition out.
Well, I admire and respect your transparency, being willing and able to admit where you were at low points in your life and how you dug deep for answers and were able to overcome. I find that fascinating, and I can relate to my own life. It's not an easy journey, but once you're grateful for what you've gone through and you've made pain your friend, it's amazing what can have developed through that journey. So I admire and respect that. And so your book, I read it all in one sitting. The next one I really would love to talk to you, or we'll be here all day, is The Entrepreneur X Factor. I found that book fascinating because I can relate to, because I've been an entrepreneur business person for many decades, and I've done my utmost to learn, improve, and grow. And I can see that you've had a fascinating compilation of other successful people that I wish I had a book like that when I first started in the business world. I'd like to read that book another 3 more times. There's some great ideas in there, like a roadmap or a journal for someone, or a manual for how to succeed in the business world. So especially I like the scales of success, How did you come up with that idea? Was it because you have a piano in your living room there? Do you play the piano? I'd love to hear how you weave that book together. I found it very fascinating.
Well, this is the important thing about entrepreneurship, and it's one of the major reasons that 95% of entrepreneurs do not succeed, is because they look to do things on their own. Even listen to the words of somebody who's thinking about going into entrepreneurship. Maybe they're leaving corporate. Their phraseology is such, oh, I want to do something on my own. Oh, I want to be my own boss. Well, wake up. If you're going to build an enterprise, an entrepreneur journey, it's about building you to attract not only great people to work, collaborate with you, yet also great clients that will work with you. So it's about connection. It's about collaboration. It's about co-creation. And that's a big mistake that people who've never gone into entrepreneurship have this mindset that they want to be on their own. Well, don't do entrepreneurship though if you're sitting in your room all by yourself and no customers are coming. So that shift of you want to be part of an awesome team. And I use the word awesome. That was the first book that I wrote called Awesome Coaching. Awesome is about you being a communicator. And often you want people on your team that are the opposite to you. And so many entrepreneurs, when they go hire people, they hire people like themselves who want to be on their own. So that doesn't work. Then they have a breakdown and the relationship doesn't work. So the piano there, Entrepreneur X Factor, the scale of success, my business partner was a former rock star. He understood the importance of having people who wanted to be out in front, Gene Simmons for Kiss, but he needed a guitarist that would stand 2 steps forward, occasionally come forward. You want to have people that do deals. You want to have people that will do the books. These are very different dynamics. And that was one of my first businesses that is supposed to list on the New York Stock Exchange. It was all about finding people that can collaborate towards a goal. And we created this out of, or re-engineered it from the I Ching, the book of changes that talks about the seasonality of individuals, of businesses, of the planet. And so when you bring in these concepts, the scale of success comes from it, where you got an idea, but then you need a proven concept, and then you need a team, and then you need clients, and then you need a really good system to account for it that can leverage value times leverage. And then you need systems that can allow it to 10 times, 100 times. And then you need to go through the cycle again and again and again. And these learning cycles are so important. And very, very few entrepreneurs have an awareness of this, because when you get into entrepreneurship, you have this myth that you want to be on your own. And so when you move into entrepreneurship, I'm encouraging people to almost do an internship. Go do it part-time for a while. See if you really love it. And if you get the right people in the right positions, not the left positions, the right positions, but if they're left, then get them in the left position. Playfulness with words is really important, because you'll see the greatest entrepreneurs are visionaries. Like Elon Musk has got a group of people that are financing his next business to Mars. Has he got a proven concept? Well, he's got a proven concept with PayPal. He's got a proven concept with his car. He's got a proven, so he's created credibility. And that's what an entrepreneur continually needs to reinvent themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really owning the idea of the butterfly, caterpillar into butterfly. And they've got multiple projects that are doing that.
You've mentioned a few times about the butterfly and the caterpillar. I know what you mean. Can you explain to some people that don't know what that means?
Well, actually, why don't we flip it around? Why don't you tell me what it means from your perspective, and then I'll share a little bit from my perspective. So that's where I get to learn too. And in these interviews, I actually love asking too. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what that metaphor means to you, and then I'll bounce it back too.
Yes, you want to turn the tables and you become the interviewer. Okay, from my perspective, I actually used it in a course that I put together on forgiveness and how to love yourself. So basically the story of the caterpillar and the butterfly is like this. There's the caterpillar, and there was one particular story. One lady, I think it was, saw the caterpillar struggling, thought it would help the caterpillar, took a knife, let the caterpillar out, and it died. And the lesson in it is that the caterpillar needs to have struggle and needs to have problems to work through. And finally, when it emerges, a beautiful butterfly emerges through all the struggle. The butterfly doesn't occur because life was easy. It happened because of the massive struggle, just like a diamond is made through massive pressure. So to compare to our own lives, personally or business, is a beautiful things that happen and occur in our life because of the struggle. It makes us stronger, wiser, more resilient, resourceful, and enables beautiful things to occur through the struggle. And the sooner we make pain our friend, the sooner we realize the beauty in the experiences that may look terrible to us at the time. So there is joy through the sadness that happens. That's my opinion of my own words. You can give me your clarification on it.
No, thank you, Joe, and thank you very much. Now, my clarification: if I put my coach's hat on, I would say one thing. If I just wear my Uber driver hat, I'll say another thing. If I bring in my playful, engaging interviewee, then I'll share it this way. And so, different perspectives, and that's the flexibility. That when you're really passionate about communication, the question you'll ask could be different. Because you ask a different question, you'll get a different answer. So the butterfly metaphor is something I've been using since about 1998. And we worked with entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs that when they had a shift of their focus, that they just didn't want to make money, they actually want to make a positive contribution. And it's a relationship with the money that the more they make, the more they can give. And so with a butterfly, when it goes into a caterpillar, goes into the different stages. It goes into that stage, into the cocoon, where it totally has to let go of everything. If it holds on to its little furry 100 or 1,000 feet, it won't go into the cocoon. It's got to let go totally. It's got to trust the process. And so the caterpillar finds a place, eats lots of food, gets into a cocoon. And during that cocoon phase, that's what your metaphor you mentioned. If somebody comes and says, oh, let's go help it, and cuts it, it will never develop the strength in its wings to be able to fly. And so this is where, as a coach or as a mentor, when somebody's going through the struggles, I can't, and I'm not wanting to go and help them, meaning do it for them. They've got to go through the struggles. They've got to find their winning strategies. In the cocoon is when they actually have to totally surrender their old caterpillar life. They go into the gel, the magi. They go into a chrysalis state where it's total gel. It's between a caterpillar and a butterfly, yet there's an unknowingness. Joseph Campbell talks about that as being the pit, the darkness. So this butterfly, this caterpillar has released everything. Let go, trust. It goes through a metamorphosis, a chrysalis. It starts to formulate. It's a miracle. It's magic. The wings start to form, the body, the head, and it's in this cocoon. And then it needs to purge, very much like grass needs to purge the ground. Yet if you go there and try to help the grass purge, no, it's through those challenges that it gains the strength to break through. The egg is similar. An egg that breaks from the inside brings life. An egg that's broken from the outside dies. So the butterfly, when it fully emerges and it goes through, it starts to fly. An entrepreneur experience is similar. An entrepreneur will go through so many challenges. Their best people will quit. The market will turn on them. Imagine being a restaurateur in the last 2 years. They have had more curveballs thrown at them. And they're going through that cocoon phase. Though those that emerge will fly. We're going to see some of the greatest restaurants in Toronto in the next year and a half as their market comes back. It's so exciting. And these entrepreneurs, some of them will be bitter, some of them will be blessed and grateful. And we're going to have some of the most amazing experiences, because if you look for amazing experiences, you'll find them.
Well, I agree. I'd like to talk a little bit more about your book, The Entrepreneur X Factor. What motivated you to put that together? And interestingly enough, I know someone that you contacted, Healthy,
That's cool.
Wealthy, and Wise. I know Derek Sweet because I took a course through him. Patch Adams, you mentioned. I've seen the movie, and I love the movie with Robin Williams. So the two particular people that I really like the story, you talked about Justin Harold, Gino Romero. I went through it all, and I really liked the book a lot. So Prosperity for Purpose, I threw a lot of things at you because we have limited time. We could spend the whole day discussing the book, actually longer than that. So you have a lot of stories about very successful people that once people dig into it and read it a few times, they get a grasp of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, business owner. And you've wrapped it up. I like it. It's like having a driver's manual for a successful business person. You need to know how to drive your car. You need driver's lessons. Well, this is like lessons for being a successful business owner or entrepreneur. So given all those 5 or 6 questions, let's see how you handle that.
Thank you very much. I'll handle it with what I call verbal Aikido. And it's something, again, plant a seed for some people. Go and study verbal Aikido. When somebody throws a punch at you, you don't punch back. You actually bring their energy, and you might swing them. And so I love the idea of entrepreneurship as a journey choice. It's a up and down journey, yet it can also be a circular journey. When that book was originally designed, it was about a decade ahead of its time because we were bringing the word and the concept into the marketplace called spiritual entrepreneurship. And that's something that the co-author and myself, we talked about spiritual entrepreneurship a lot. And then we would ask people, what is spiritual entrepreneurship? And some people, like pretty much you could ask a room of 15 people and you'll get 15 different answers. For me, spiritual entrepreneurship is about breath work, breathing. Because when you breathe, you come into your presence. When you consciously breathe, you allow yourself to be resourceful. To be a successful entrepreneur isn't about having all the answers. It's often about putting yourself in a resourceful state when there's curveballs or fastballs or sliders sent your way. Mm-hmm. You get a vision. So we help ask better questions. And so the keys components, which is shared in the first 5 chapters, because that's where the real spiritual lessons come from. And then we then introduce you to 18 amazing entrepreneurs from around the world that we had the privilege of interviewing, that did workshops with us, that are incredible beacons of light. And this was, again, 15 years ago. And it was so beautiful because many of these people became our lifelong friends. Some of them became fleeting, beautiful ships in the ocean. And so that's what spirit is about for me. It's about being so present. You notice the miracles that are unfolding. You find the joys in a breath. If you would have told me at the beginning of that book that I would become a yoga instructor in my mid-50s, I said, you're crazy. I didn't even go to a yoga class before I went to India and learned yoga because a friend of mine had double hip replacement surgery in his 50s. And I said, I want to learn how to be more flexible. Well, flexibility comes with studying yoga. Now I teach elderly about yoga or chair yoga or laughter yoga. And so this is about equipping people with resourcefulness. And so I went from sort of my brand when I was around 2000, when I won the Spirit of Enterprise Award, it was Asia's leading entrepreneur coach, because that was my focus. For 10 years, I was meeting hundreds of entrepreneurs every month and coaching them in figuring out ways to attract great people and then coach them so that you could build a great enterprise that then could be sold. And so a number of the people I worked with sold businesses. So they get in a financial situation that they could do whatever they want, wherever they want, with whoever they want in the world. That is one definition of spiritual entrepreneurship. We've got other people that started an organization. I'll mention it because I love the success story is Buy One, Give One, B1G1.com, Masami Sato. Her organization has contributed over 300 million gifts of giving because an idea that came from one of our sessions where she said, wouldn't it be cool if you had a water business? If somebody bought water from you, a well could be built in Africa or India to feed a community or give water to a community. So the idea of buy one, give one came from that. She's probably my favorite example of spiritual entrepreneurship. Imagine.
So, the question I have, since our group here is focusing on men, is there a difference how men handle business world versus women, business entrepreneurship, weave it in, how they handle their personal life? Are they related, personal, business together? If you handle your personal life okay, is your business life okay, or vice versa, upside down? What would you say the difference is between how men and women handle their personal life to their business life? Are they at all related, or does it not matter how you handle your personal life and your business life? Can you have two different lives like a Jekyll and Hyde and still succeed without getting caught?
Great question. Since you asked the question, until you get caught. Well, my energetic answer to you, you will get caught. Okay? Because if you're not in alignment, it will catch up to you. So people I see who are very, very successful, yet they don't have respect and kindness, what comes around goes around. In many of the energetics that I've seen, in the coaching I do or have done in the past, the wheel of life, if you don't take care of your health, lo and behold, at 39, you might have a massive heart attack. And so what I would like to see, the idea is that there is a divine feminine and there's a divine masculine. There is a yin and there's a yang. I'm not saying one's better than the other, yet I have noticed that a yin environment that nurtures and encourages and brings safety and trust allows often quite uplifting yang activity. So yin and yang is Mother Earth and Father Sky coming together to weave. There's yang energy, which tends to be the top of a mountain, is considered a yang masculine structure. A yin is a nice valley. Some of the greatest growth, perhaps even as bold to say the greatest growth, happens in the valley. Those valleys, those dark places, is where you have the most lush green forests. And so that's considered a divine feminine geostructure. And so we have both. We have part of mom, part of dad in us. The way we express it, we have some feminine or masculine tendencies. There's something called masculine toxicity. There's something called feminine toxicity. And so I invite people to be curious about this, to notice this, to explore this. I've happened to explore it in many different businesses, and I love, and I use the word love and compassion. I've been an elderly caregiver for the last couple of years. If I looked at myself as a type A when I was in my 20s, now I'm a nurturer. Not only the elderly, which is required, and I've chosen compassion and patience and curiosity. Now, if I was in my 20s doing that, I'd say, get off here, let's go, come on, march, march, march. And that wouldn't necessarily serve. And so different people you're working with on your team, you want to have, some will be motivated by get out there and go. Others will be nurtured by a one-on-one thing. What's going on? Are you feeling fear? And so you'll engage it. You'll give that personal one-on-one time to get them into resourcefulness. And that's what great sports coaches have been able to do. There's some that respond to the stick, and there's some that respond to the carrot. Toxicity is something that I've been curious about, and I've been running a number of workshops on that, and I've been finding it fascinating. In compassionate leadership, it's about men being aware that we have biases, we have tendencies, we have our ancestral beliefs, our cultural beliefs, and some of them aren't necessarily serving our community. And so there's a big curiosity component in this. And the key buzzword, I was asked by my collaborator, a wonderful group called Meta Mind, about what would be a word, because we got people who do resilience and we got people who do women's leadership. And I said the word that I really focus on right now is resourcefulness. And whether I'm talking to a 93-year-old who's just had surgery, I'm looking for ways that he can feel resourceful, self-esteem, self-confidence. And some of it is quite shocking because these are very successful people for the last 70 or 80 years. And then when they get to be 90, they lose their confidence. So what do? And that's what's happening to a lot of our men right now, Joe, is that their confidence has been shaken, their self-esteem has been shaken, their worth has been shaken. And so what can we do to potentially connect them to, maybe it was a passion they had as a 6-year-old who was stomped out of them because their dad said, you can't make money writing, you can't make money drawing. And they reconnect to it. And we see this beautiful caterpillar go into the dormant phase of cocoon. And when it's nurtured and it's fed and it's encouraged, it flies like a butterfly.
Well, I like what is said in the chapter 5 of the book, Entrepreneur X Factor, expressing appreciation, playing a bigger game, and then the letters HAPPS. Our time is getting closer to the end, but can you elaborate a little bit on that and where your meaning of compassion comes in? What brought that all about, from being driven to being more patient and caring, compassionate with people?
Well, it starts with self. Listen to yourself. The inner voice is very powerful. Is the inner voice that you currently have, is it somebody who's telling you you're stupid, you're dumb, you're ugly, you're fat, whatever ways to beat you down? And it probably is somebody who was in your life. Pattern interrupt. These are neural pathways. So you've got to be curious enough that you're willing to recreate your neurology and your neural pathways. And it takes practice. And so it starts, Joe, with this idea of learning to influence the inner voice. And when it starts to beat you up, that's when you've got to start doing things differently. Like if you're beating yourself up and your old pattern was to go grab a dozen beer and start drinking and then pass out, next time it happens, you've got a choice, the 12 beers or go for a walk, go hug a tree. When you hug a tree, your neuropeptides start releasing. Your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, your endorphins start to create new neural pathways. Your breath work can create a whole new way of looking up or looking down, because most guys, most ladies, when they're depressed, where do they look? Up or down? What do they say to themselves? That's where the journaling can be helpful. You write down the nastiness of what you say. And then the next time it happens, you might still do it. In fact, 7 out of 10 times, if you do it the old way, that's fine, because 3 new times you do it a new way. You create new neural pathways of possibility. That's what we're looking for, Joe, is that what got you where you were is not going to get you where you want to go. It really is about, again, using that metaphor. If you want to do anything different, it's going to require phases of practice. One of my favorite phrases that comes from an award-winning school in Malaysia. They just won a national competition. It's called Dwi Mas, which is about light. They're bringing lightness into education. It's the first entrepreneur school for kids. They don't say practice makes perfect. That's what most people I know in North America say. I've looked to be an ambassador of practice makes progress. Allow yourself to have a little progress, a little bit of kindness, a little bit of compassion, and you can shift from being a pretty monstrous type A, brutalizing, terrifying, profit-driven, to a compassionate, a kind, a focused, resourceful leader.
So let me just ask here a deep question. We're now in the year 2022, hard to believe as it is. We've gone through 2 years of a pandemic, and some people have thrived through it, and some people have struggled massively and deeply in their personal and their business life. What advice would you give a man, for example, since we're focusing on the male gender here, what they can do to go through the rest of their life and understand their purpose, the meaning in their life, how they can find peace and joy and not have to struggle with going to other artificial means of medicating themselves through addictions, whether it's alcohol or drugs or smoking or whatever it might be, to understand why they're here on this earth, so they can have meaning and they jump out of bed excitedly and do what they can to contribute, make the world a better place because they lived here. I know that's a lot of questions all in one, but
I love it, Joe.
Yeah,
I love it. And it's great. I love the way that you ask questions, because this is what allows my verbal Aikido to play. I am going to bring it back to the theme of Get 2020 Vision, because Get 2020 Vision is about you having vision. So your first point was, again, piling it on. What can men do? Focus on gratitude. Right now, what are you grateful for? And so if you start to build your list of gratitude, I'm grateful for a house. I'm grateful for in-house heating. I'm grateful for having people in my life. I'm grateful for my wellness. I have a list. I could write 100 things I'm grateful for. Gentlemen, you've got to work on things that you're grateful for. If you got 1 foot, you could say, I'm grateful I got 1 foot. So you focus on the positives of gratitude. Then you start to be curious, and that's right now. This is done daily. This is done before you go to sleep. It needs to be the new practice of gratitude. Then we go into purpose and passion. I tried to simplify it, because there's a lot of people running around going, I don't know my purpose. I don't know my passion. I don't know. Because they're challenging concepts that, again, if you don't have any gratitude in your life, it's pretty hard to find passion and purpose. It tends to start with gratitude. So purpose and passion, I love to replace it with, what would I love to do in the next 18 months? That's passion. I'd love to start drawing again. I'd love to go dancing. So love is about passion. Purpose is about learning. What do you want to learn in the next 6 to 12 months? Because if you start to infuse your daily reticular focus on, what would I love to learn? What would I like to learn? What would I like to study? You start being creative, innovative, optimistic. So if you start with gratitude, and then you start looking for likes and loves that you would like to explore, and you give yourself a time frame, the next 3 to 6 months, the next 9 to 18 months, you start to get on a GPS system, your personalized GPS system. And then you get into service, and you say, if I had $10 million, what group of people would I serve? Would it be seniors? Would it be differently abled? Would it be Paralympics? What would you love to serve? And then you set yourself a goal in the next 3 years. Men, if you would love to learn more about serving men, come join Voice of Men 360. Click the button, say hello. We were looking for more volunteers. Our board is growing. So that's the possibility. If you're in schools, you want to bring a music program to a school, start tutoring some music students. If you're an artist and you want to run a virtual class, we'll reach out, go to a senior center, community center. So this idea of GPS, gratitude, purpose, passion, and service, it allows you to have a map for your journey. That's why it's about Get 2020 Vision. It's not about eyesight. It's about allowing you, inviting you to start creating a navigation system that allows you to grow with gratitude, loving, liking, and service.
I really like that. Gratitude, purpose, and service GPS. I like that. I'm going to use that. And that actually, of the different things I've had to deal with in my own life, the secret, actually what was missing was gratitude. And I just discovered it a few years ago. I heard it many thousands of times, but I didn't understand it until the pastor of my church gave a talk on gratitude. He said, in the Bible says we're supposed to give thanks in all things. That means if someone rejected you, hurt you, condemned, judged you, criticized you, gossiped about you, but I never heard it like that. I always heard, be grateful for the good things. Once I understood, be grateful for all the things, then my life transformed, because hurt that I had for people, it seemed to dissipate. So I agree with you 1,000%. The gratitude is the step, and my objective is 20 things I list a day as to what I'm grateful for. So I'm very grateful that we had Mr. Dave Rogers on today. He is a very pleasant personality, very driven, and has accomplished amazing things through a lot of obstacles, and definitely has very exemplary of the butterfly experience in his own life. I can see that. So I can tell that we would probably need to have another 10 more meetings to get more of a grasp of his amazing life. So I look forward to having breakfast and lunch with him someday, and then I can report back my own findings of his amazing life and journey. So I'm very grateful that he was here, and I look forward to seeing him again soon on some of our upcoming meetings and author experience. And he said he'll be finding other authors that we can interview. So I'm hoping you have a sensational Saturday today. And I would say my hat's off to you, but I'm not wearing a hat. Your hat is there. So thanks for wearing your hat, and thanks for sitting in your beautiful home there. So have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Joe.
And
Great job.
yeah. And in closing, I have a few announcements I want to share. We have our Open Up 100 show on Sunday, April 3rd from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Participants from different industries will join and share their life journeys. We have a few weekly and monthly live shows through Facebook and YouTube. Open Up Sharing Your Life Journey live talk show on Sunday at 10 on Eastern Standard Time. Vili is a Tamil live talk show. Well, this Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a monthly webinar, which is the first Saturday of every month at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We bring expertise. Organizations discuss a particular topic each time. We have a monthly special show, The Unspoken Tears, second Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The focus is domestic violence against men, bullying, male sex abuse, traumas, porn addiction, human trafficking. Author Circle. We want to bring individuals who have been contributing to the well-being of men and boys through their writings, articles, media, and recognize and appreciate them. This show runs on the third Saturday of every month from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Podcasts, all of our shows are available on 6 platforms, including iPhone, Google Play. Monthly men's group meeting, only for men by men, every 2 weeks. On Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. through Zoom. The next one will be on March 22nd. Please join through Zoom. The link is available on our Facebook page and group. Pass the Talking Stick, Indigenous Peer-to-Peer Support Group, fourth Friday of every month from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. through Zoom. There are no limitations to gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life can participate in any of our shows. If you want to be a guest of any of our shows or willing to be part of our organization, help us directly, indirectly, please reach out to us. We'd love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, and businesses. Our phone number is 437-889-8329. Email address is info@voiceofmen360.org. Our website is voiceofmen360.org. You can find us on all social media, Facebook group page. You can join our group to see our daily activities. Please invite your friends as well. Our social media platforms are Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Voice of Men 360. We want to reach out to more people and help more, so please continue your support. Thank you very much for coming today. For those of you that were live and those of you who are going to be seeing the recording, I thank you for your time today, and I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful Saturday today. Thank you very much. My name is Joe Groh.